Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast, where the Commander Clash crew discusses Commander-related topics, and today we're going to be talking about expensive cards that we feel are worth purchasing. They're worth the investment, and they're worth the price point that they're at. We're also having a shakeup on the Commander Clash podcast crew. Generally speaking, it would be me and Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive. How's it going, Seth?
I'm doing well, Tomer. How are you today?
Good. And it will also be Krim, Asian Avenger. Krim, how's it going,
That's me. Hi. It's going well. I woke up early for once.
Oh, early.
I'm actually dreading it. My eyes hurt, but it's fine.
It's 11:23 for you in the morning.
Yes. That is that is sun up for me, like crack of dawn, by the way. I'm letting you know that.
Yeah, blackout curtains everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. And then for the fourth person, we usually had Richard, aka the Codfather, joining us in the fourth spot. But Richard is busy with baby stuff, so he's taking a backseat from Commander Clash and the podcast temporarily. And joining in his place is Commander Clash roster crew member Phil, aka the Brew's Kitchen, joining us permanently for the foreseeable future. So welcome to the podcast, Phil. It's not your first time, but
no,
first time as a permanent member. So hello,
yes.
welcome. Are you excited to talk about?
Yes, I am excited.
Phil?
Yeah, I am excited to talk about Commander. What I'm not too excited about is I usually listen to the podcast, and now I can't listen to it anymore because now I won't. Now I know what's happening. So I guess. One last podcast.
Maybe that was a reason not to add Phil. Now we're going to be negative one listener in our analytics, -1.
Wait, Richard will be listening to us,
oh,
right?
There we go. There we go. Probably.
Richard, you have to leave a comment if you're listening to this. All right. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about cards that we consider are expensive investments in Commander, but we think are worth the money, worth purchasing in the long run. So these could be cards that we consider staples that are just, the best at what they do, and therefore they're worth paying their cost. Or maybe they could also be cards that we consider maybe underpriced for how effective they are too. Those cards are options as well. Or whatever else we consider good pickups that we would recommend people. Because oftentimes I get in situations or get asked, by people like in getting into Commander. They don't have a collection or anything, and they're looking to upgrade their decks from their precons or whatever deck that they started off with. And the question often becomes like, what should I buy? What should I pick up for my deck? What should I pick up in general, spend my money on for the higher ticket items? So hopefully this will be something that, can be helpful for those people. So kicking things off, Seth, what do you have first on the list? An expensive card that you think is worth the price. Maybe also what the price is, too.
Well, first, Homer, I have a question for you that's unrelated. I was thinking about getting a new playmat. my old playmat's a little bit, getting a little raggedy. Do you have any advice for me as far as that goes?
Well, let me tell you, Seth, because that is a great question that I might have forgotten to plug. We actually have a playmat that is on sale right now, a limited edition playmat, super sweet, an entirely different style than the usual playmats that we have on sale at mtggoldfishmerch.com. Head on over to mtggoldfishmerch.com. You can check out a beautiful new playmat that is a limited edition, available now until July 31st, so the end of this month. If you are watching this on YouTube, Seth actually has an exclusive early copy of the playmat that he's showing on the thing. Yeah, it's so exclusive. I don't even have a copy of it.
Yeah, that's so exclusive.
Yeah, I wish I had that.
I wish I could get one. Where would I find one of those?
Where would I find one? mtggoldfishmerch.com. It's drawn by Andrew Thompson. This is the first time we've commissioned artwork from him. Fantastic artist, and did an amazing job showcasing this exclusive new playmat. You can get it in a regular stitched and an extra fancy foil stitched version, which has all of our signatures in this like metallic foil on it that looks really, really cool. So head on over to mtggoldfishmerch.com for that. Okay, with that plug out of the way, now, Seth, what is the first card on your list that you would recommend, dishing out the monies for?
So this one was actually a pretty easy choice. When I think about cards that are expensive but worth the money, I really want cards that don't have a easy budget replacement. So the first thing that came to mind for me was Cyclonic Rift. Cyclonic Rift is like $34, which is a lot of money for any Magic card, but especially for what it does. The thing about Cyclonic Rift, though, which is 2 mana, bounce a non-land permanent you don't control, or 7 mana, overload it, bounce all non-land permanents you don't control, there's really just not another card that does what Cyclonic Rift does. You have blue mass bounce spells. Well, first I should say, blue doesn't really get wraths. Blue's way of dealing with the board is by bouncing everything, so it's not like you have a Damnation or a Wrath of God. So blue's way of dealing with stuff is bouncing it. Most of the bounce in blue, like Evacuation or whatever, makes you also pick up your stuff, which is a bit of a bummer. Cyclonic Rift, it only hits your opponents. It's like the Plague Wind of mass bounce, and unlike a lot of these effects, it's also an instant. So you might have like a Slinvada or something that can bounce most of your opponent's stuff, but it's only sorcery speed. Being an instant lets you do it at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you get to untap and use all your mana first and get the advantage out of it. So I see Cyclonic Rift, even though I really dislike this card and sometimes leave it out of my decks just because I think it's overpowered, I see this as just a really solid investment at $34 that you will play in literally any deck that has blue mana.
Counteroffer.
It's not fun, though.
Counteroffer, though.
What's the counteroffer? What is the best replacement?
There's a really good board wipe in blue.
If you say Floodgate, Tomer, I swear to God, if you go to Floodgate here, we're done.
No.
We're done.
Floodgate has an issue where, so Floodgate is really good, first of all. When it leaves, it's a like 3 mana or 4 mana creature. When it leaves the battlefield, it deals damage to your opponent's creatures, or to all non-blue creatures equal to half the number of islands you control. Very good, but you have to be mono blue for that, so I'm not going to use that, or 2-color blue. Okay, but even better, though. Fade Away. 3 mana sorcery. For each creature, that creature's controller pays 1 or sacrifices a permanent. 3 mana. It's like a Toxic Deluge in blue. Easily splashable.
It's like a Toxic Deluge.
Less than $1. Less than $1, folks. I'm just saying.
We've had experiences with Fade Away, and we have seen it be really good, but we've also seen it be really bad. I think what Cyclonic Rift has is consistency. It's always going to make your opponent pick up all their stuff. Fade Away, when it works out, it's actually really powerful, but then there's times when your opponents just like have their mana up or whatever, and it kind of doesn't do anything.
I love that you're just like, it's like Toxic Deluge. I'm like,
is it? It's a blue Toxic
Deluge.
Okay.
Write that down.
Okay. All right.
You'll all see.
Seriously, though, is there anything that even comes close to Cyclonic Rift? Like, let's say this is out of your budget. What is it, like Evacuation? Is that the next best option if you're just trying to kind of have a bad board wipe in blue? Like,
the next option, like, the problem here is that, like, nothing else, like, fully mass bounces as hard as this does, like, without hitting your own stuff, which is the problem. Because otherwise you'd have, like, Devastating Tide with Miracle, I guess, maybe, but that hits your own stuff. So I don't know. I think maybe, like, I like River's Rebuke, but it's only one person. That's the problem. And it's sorcery. Yeah. The thing is, like, there's just nothing that's... it might be Evacuation, actually, because that is instant speed. And that's the only thing I can think of that's, like, pretty solid bouncing for instance. There's
none that are so good in every single deck. That's the problem. Like, you can have sorcery speed mass bounce, like Crusher Tentacles, which bounces your own stuff, but you get an 8/8 if you cast it for Surge. There's like Flood of Tears, which bounces everything, but again, you get something back if you bounce enough non-tokens. But there's like sorcery, the Crim Special. I forgot the name of it, but it was from Shadows over Innistrad, which is the bounce, but
I love
Consuming
that.
Vortex or something like that.
Consuming Tide.
Consuming Tide.
I love that card, but also sorcery.
Yeah. Also sorcery. This one's asymmetrical instant speed. There's just not an equivalent in blue, and it's so good that you'd run it in non-blue decks. You would run in mono blue decks, but you'd run it in basically any deck. It doesn't really matter what the deck is trying to accomplish. Like, you can just jam it into most of your decks, and your deck will get better when you add it. So it's very versatile. Like, if you don't like your deck and you take it apart, you can still have that Cyclonic Rift and put it into some other blue deck, and it's going to be good there too. So, yeah, I agree. This is like worth the money for sure. It's no fade away, but I mean, you need a second board wipe.
You need to stop bringing that card. You need to stop. You need to stop, Tober.
Yeah, let's let that joke fade away.
All right, that was good.
But the thing is, Tomer's not joking. That's the thing. Like, we're taking it as a joke, but Tomer is not joking. That's the thing. So.
The disrespect, I'll just keep getting you with it until you respect it.
Keep getting us with it. I copied it with Jingataxis and it was still bad.
Blue Toxic Deluge. All right, I'm not taking questions.
I'm not going to acknowledge that comparison.
Speaking of board wipes, though, Krim, you have a board wipe for us for your top pick as well.
Yes. I have a board wipe that at first I didn't think it was like that good to warrant the price tag that it's at. But then as I started like playing around with it a lot more, the Meatball Massacre, as you know, like I like calling it, but the Meat Hook Massacre is like $50 right now. And Woo! It looks just kind of like a blood artisty kind of thing, but it's so much better than that because like holy cow, this board wipe scales exactly what you want, like to how you want, and whenever any creature controlled like dies that opponent controls, you gain a life. The life gain is actually pretty major. Like just having
it. So what exactly does it do?
Right.
Tell the entire card first.
The Meat Hook Massacre enters the battlefield. Each creature gets -X until end of turn, and it costs X and black. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and whenever a creature an opponent control dies, you gain 1 life. So your own creature's dying, sure, the draining is one thing, but like for a control deck and stuff like that, any deck really, it doesn't matter. Like any deck can play this. That's the main thing about how good this sweeper is. Whenever a creature and opponent dies, you gain a life, and that actually adds up a lot. You don't even have to do anything, just when things naturally die all the time in a game of Commander. I was very surprised over the course of just a few turns how much life I gained and didn't do anything. I just sat around and like just things died. I'm like, wait, I'm like at 60 life randomly. I'm just sitting here doing nothing. So I think this card is very much so worth the price.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very expensive, but it's maybe the best board wipe in Commander, in casual Commander. Second, but what's the first best in casual?
Farewell.
Fade away.
Farewell.
Oh, Farewell, yeah, probably.
The only reason why Farewell's not on this is because for some odd reason we had a criteria. We had to have it be a little bit more expensive. Farewell is actually cheap.
Yeah. So because I didn't mention in the intro, we're sticking to cards that are currently over $10 US, according to our MTG Goldfish price. So that might change by the time you're listening to the podcast, obviously. But so some cards that are cheaper than under $10, we decide to omit just because like they're not really, we didn't consider them expensive. Our criteria is over $10 for expensive, and Farewell being like $5, $6 is relatively cheap to pick up, I think.
I'm going to say I don't know if I think Meat Hook Massacre is worth it, honestly. So here's my thinking. Meat Hook Massacre is great. It's a really powerful card. Everything Krim said about it is true. But there's 2 reasons that I would say I think maybe it's not worth it right now. One of them is you do have other options that can kind of replace it. Like if you just want to Wrath the Board, you got Damnation, Crux of Fate, Toxic Deluge. They're not going to gain you the life. You're not going to get the incidental damage. But really the primary purpose of Meat Hook Massacre is like, I got to get these creatures off the board. And there's just like cheaper ways you can do it. The other reason I think this one will change is Meat Hook Massacre is like a standard staple. And I think part of the reason why it's $50 right now is like standard players are buying it along with other formats. So I'm hoping that maybe if we wait another year and it gets out as standard, the price will drop to like $30 or something. And then I would be much more in the like, okay, now it's definitely worth it at $30. When at 50, I feel like you're paying a little tax because the standard players are also buying it.
Do people who plays paper standard?
Yeah, I don't even know.
There's
anybody.
dozens. There's dozens.
No
of us.
way.
Dozens.
I think the cut is just.
You're playing in the past. This is 2018 mentality there.
LGS have had like problems firing standard events, paper standard events.
Oh god.
Does anybody know how much Midnight Hunt was? So I think it's Midnight Hunt.
That is why I would believe that it is expensive, because
I think it's just super high demand and not. It's a mythic.
It's a low quantity. Like, nobody opened the set, right? And I think, like, immediately off the bat, Commander players bought it more than standard players.
I think so. It's so impressive in Commander. I don't think it's
right. Like, the drain is also major, right? So, like, it's not just any like, some decks can really utilize that. So it's just good in so many different decks. I feel like
I think it's good, but it's not $50.
The drain,
$50 is a lot, yeah.
You could sell me on it for specific decks, I think. You could sell me if I was building, like, Corvold or something, then I would probably feel like, okay, like, I don't really want to pay $50 for this, but it's worth it. Since I'm sacrificing stuff, it's really part of my main game plan. If I'm just, like, some random black pile, it's going to be hard to sell me on $50 Toxic Deluge if I could buy, like, $15 or $50 Meat Hook Massacre when I could buy, like, $15 Toxic Deluge or something.
No, but the thing is, I often, like, I play Meat Hook Massacre, I think, in every black deck, unless I forget about it. But often even if you're behind, it feels like Decree of Pain, where you just catch up with the table and somehow you wipe the board, and now you're at 50 life because you wipe 10 creatures from one opponent, and then you're super back in the game.
And it's great against all the little green dorks, right? Like green decks always have little dorks and 1/1s and things like that. Like this, as someone who's often arch enemy, maybe the reason why I enjoy this card so much is because my life total, I'm like bleeding the whole time I'm playing, beaten to a pulp. So that's why I think the life gain is so relevant here. If you're playing a deck that is often hated against, or if you're the arch enemy player, this has a lot of value for you. Or if you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're playing a powerful deck, I know Phil plays powerful decks and whatnot too. So like, the thing here is, oftentimes you're the blood bag, right? So you got to gain the life back, and this is a huge spell for that.
I agree. I think it's also it also counts as a finisher. Like, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So it's essentially your Blood Artist or Zulapur Cutthroat. So if you ever are playing Aristocrats or something and you have a lot of death triggers, that will actually just kill your opponents.
Yeah, and it's each, not target. Remember that. Yeah, that's why it's so good, right? Like,
so if I'm running an Aristocrats deck, I'll be more considering on shelling out $50 for it, but even
random black piles want this because
it's really good. I would definitely spend like $20-$30 for it, but like, it's Toxic Deluge is 17, and like, you have Damnation,
but
and you have like other things.
It's not just a simple toxic. As a matter of fact, Toxic Deluge isn't great when you're beaten to a bloody pulp at times, right? Like, I think that Toxic Deluge is very good, but like, this is actually a way to get you back, like, life total.
You still have to cast like 8 to kill 6/6s or something. Like, you have to spend 8 mana to kill a 6/6.
Sure,
like, it's not going to kill the big stuff.
It is way more expensive when you think about mana wise. Like, how much if you want to kill something big. But
whereas like a Damnation is like, how much is a Damnation? It's $18.
But everything is indestructible in 2022.
Okay, so here's the question: you're building a mono black deck. You can get Meat Hook Massacre or Toxic Deluge, Damnation, and Decree of Pain. Which pile do you pick?
Bought a Decree of Pain. Then maybe.
I only get one of those
only Secret Lair Decree
you get one,
of Pain.
No, either all 3 or the Meat Hook Massacre. Because financially, it adds up to be like roughly, give or take, the same amount. Like, if you're a new player building a black deck, would you rather have all 3 of the lesser Ras, quote unquote, or one Meat Hook Massacre?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I guess for $50, I would take the obviously the 3 cards, right? Like I would take the 3 cards. But that's always
like
the
9
case.
board wipes, so
I would just play them all.
Crim needs them all. Crim needs every board wipe. I mean, I do love Meat Hook Massacre. It's such a great card. It really is. I just hope it gets a little more expensive. Reprint it, Watsy. Get the price down a bit, and then
cheaper.
You mean a little cheaper?
A little cheaper.
Your Freudian slip might just become true.
Like on a pile of like 100 Meat Hook hands. I wish it was a little bit more expensive.
No, other way.
I think it's just gonna rise in price. I don't think Standard has anything to do with it.
What about reprints,
it's just not a popular set that was opened. That's why. And I seriously do not. Standard events, at least in like California, by the way, which is a pretty small state, has had problems running events. So I'm just saying, I don't think Standard's like inflating this price.
And I mean, I guess Great Henge is still like $50. So that rotated from Standard and is still like very expensive. So
and I
think
right. This is probably where it's gonna sit.
Yeah,
it might
sadly.
dip for a window, but sadly, but it will probably sit around here.
So it might be expensive, but maybe there's a argument that if it's going to go up, maybe you pick it up. But I don't know, $50 is a lot, man. I don't know.
Yeah, 50 is a lot too.
Magic the Gathering is a very expensive game.
Think of how many fadeaways you could buy for that price.
Just
could build a whole house out of
you could
fadeaways.
just play white. You could just play white and play Farewell instead for $6. So.
But again, Farewell is the best board wipe. I will stand by that.
It's a different color.
Yeah, it is a different color.
But like I cannot stress how good the drain and the pain and the life gain is. It's so good. It keeps going. It's the gift that keeps on giving even after it sits on the board.
Yeah, to be honest, I think $50 is a lot, but I think this card actually helps you win the game more than any other board wipe, except for, I guess, Decree of Pain. But this
Farewell,
because it does double as a finisher.
Farewell is like just the cleanest board wipe. Like this actually gets you so much value. Like sometimes you just play it like 5 turns ago, and then you wonder, oh, I'm at 60 life just because my opponents attacked each other. It's so good.
I just don't like how much mana, like, it's not reliable in terms of killing all the bigger creatures. Like, if you're against a Stompy deck, this is going to be kind of sus.
I mean, Decree of Pain is 8 mana, right? That's the thing. It's 8 mana, and roughly 8 mana, this would probably kill the same amount of things. I don't draw the cards. That's the difference.
But you gain some life. Although I've been cutting Decree of Pain from my decks too. That's one that used to be like a staple for me, and I've started just focusing on cheaper Wrath Commander. Like, stuff's so powerful now. But anyway, we're getting off track. So
yeah. Well, we need to move on to the third card, or else we're going to be a 2-hour podcast. So let's move on. Phil, what do you got for us?
So my card is Seagate Restoration, the mythic MDFC from Zendika, the land MDFC, and that's where what's the good point about it? It's just completely irreplaceable. It's a theoretically untapped land that also draws you a million cards, gives you no maximum hand size, so many games. Like when you stabilize and cast this, it's usually over. Not immediately, but it's just way too much value on a
but
land.
card text, because people are listening on podcasts.
True. 7 mana. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, +1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. And you can also play it as a land, which enters untapped if you pay 3 life, otherwise it's tapped. So it's a lightning bolt land, and it's just an amazing draw spell. It's like, unless I forget about it, which is always the caveat for the things I say here. But otherwise, I think I play this in every blue deck. And if you want to spend $16 on a card, this one will make it in every blue deck. I almost play them. Would you play them in 5 color? I don't know about that, but
Seth would.
Yes. One. You can fit the mythic ones in 5 color. I mean, I'm the
blue, and it doesn't it's just mana fix. No,
but it draws me cards. It draws me cards. But not all of us want 20 basics, Tomer. Yeah. Not all of us need to have 20 basics. I mean, I'm the biggest MDFC believer, so I'm with Phil on this one. It's only $16, which I know only like that's still a big chunk of money, but it's not $50 or whatever. I think these are cards that are gonna.
Yeah, that's not $50.
I think these are cards that are gonna probably keep going up in value, and I would take it a step further and say, like, get all the MDFCs while they're still like sort of in print and like whatever. Like, this is probably a time. Like, I play as many of them as possible.
Didn't they say like MDFCs are harder to print? Like they're
they
just
can't
harder
always
to get
do
reprinted?
double double-sided cards. Like, it's an additional cost and hassle with printing, so not every set can do it. So it does make it, I think it's less likely that, like, a random Commander precon has a double-sided card, because Wizards just doesn't want to go through the hassle of printing it. So harder to reprint, and we've seen prices even, like, ticking up over if you look at just, like, the price chart of Seagate Restoration, it was like $10 a year ago, and it's just, like, month by month, slowly, like, ticking up as Commander players get it for their decks. So I'm
also
totally on board
not
with this.
financial advice. Just
Agadeem's Awakening is like 25 or like $20 or something, right?
Oh, I opened one of these recently, and I don't even play a black Commander deck, but oh boy, am I happy that I got it, because these aren't gonna get cheaper anytime. They are so hard to reprint, and Seagate Restoration is the best one of them.
Seagate Restoration is really good. I don't know if it's 5. Like, I would say I'm like the second. Like, of us, I'm like the second highest on MDFCs. I'm nowhere near Seth, but I do love MDFCs. So this card is,
but
it's one of the good. Dude,
top 5 for sure.
We have a whole MDFC tier list.
We have a tier list
that you can listen to if you want to hear us debate it.
Yeah, we'll link it in the YouTube if you're listening on YouTube.
But like, Seagate Restoration is very good.
Yeah. I would run it in basically every monocolored, 2-color, and 3-color blue deck, and I'd start thinking about it for 4, and I wouldn't run it for 5.
It's less free when you start going above 3 colors, unless you're Seth, of course.
But like, it's so easy, because like, you don't really have to think about it in a monocolor, 2-color, 3-color blue deck. Like, it will slot in all the time. And it's so easy to slot in, and it always has good value. Every single time I draw it or have it in my hand, like, I'm happy to see it. So yeah, it's just a good card to pick up, because you're always going to get some good value out of it. And drawing cards is sweet. So, and then you never have to discard again. That's even better.
Yeah, that's very good. It's like an emblem, right? You get for the rest of the game. You don't have maximum hand size.
Yeah, this is definitely. I guess we're unanimous on this one. It's pretty easy to snap this one up. All right, we'll move on to the next one then. I have a double whammy. I cheated. I put the two best tutors, arguably the two best tutors in the format. The first one is Vampiric Tutor. This is a black instant that says search your library for a card, put that on top of your library. Search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top. And you lose 2 life, and it's instant speed for 1 black. And the other one is Demonic Tutor, which is 2 mana for a sorcery that says search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and shuffle your library. So Vampiric Tutor, instant speed, 1 mana, put it on top. And the Demonic Tutor is 2 mana, sorcery speed, put it in your hand. These are just simply the 2 best tutors in the format. They get any card you need. So if you're missing a land drop, you get that. If you need a board wipe, you get that. If you need a creature, or you need a combo piece, or you need finisher, or whatever you need, you get whatever you need at any given time for the cheapest rate. And the options beyond these, like Demonic Tutor, you have other cards that let you tutor. For example, Grim Tutor is 3 mana, you lose 3 life. Diabolic Tutor is 4 mana. But Demonic Tutor is just so efficient at what it does that it honestly, I started taking out Diabolic Tutor for my budget brews. Like, it's just 4 mana to search your library for a card to put into your hand. Generally speaking, I won't always have the mana to actually cast that spell. That's the biggest detriment to it. I have to wait another turn to actually cast it. Whereas Demonic Tutor, it's 2 mana. It's much more likely that I can tutor up the spell that I need and then immediately cast it on the same turn. And Vampiric Tutor is great. While it doesn't put it into your hand, it puts it on top of your library. Being an instant speed means you can wait and assess the entire board state and then cast and find the perfect card for your next turn. So it sets up really well. And yeah, these cards are kind of expensive. Demonic Tutor is like $36. Vampiric Tutor is creeping up, like, I think it's like $50. But I think like these are cards you're never going to be upset to have in your deck. And they're always going to be useful in whatever deck you run. Oh, sorry, it's like $43. So those would be my options. Like, just these generic tutors that just fit any deck and are always the best at what they do.
When you're talking like just like how good they are, I agree fully. I don't really run them that much, but like I do think that these cards are great. Like, if you're gonna tutor, these are probably the best tutors.
Mm-hmm. your budget comment was interesting to me, because my initial thought when I saw these was, like, if you're on a tight budget, do you just play Diabolic Tutor? Do you just play one of the 4 or 5 mana ones that are like so much cheaper? Would your deck be better if you spent the $40 on whatever and then like played a cheaper tutor? So it was interesting to me that you actually like kind of tried that and it didn't work. Profane Tutor I strongly dislike in most decks, because the main power of Tutor is being able to get the card that you need right away. And I think in Commander in specific, having to wait 2 turns is just... it's way too long. Like, you'll be dead to the big board of creatures or something, potentially, by the time it comes off suspend. I do think that you can argue about, like, Grim Tutor. That one's 1 more mana, but that's still, like, $20. So if I'm going to spend $20 or $15 on Grim Tutor, I would probably try to, like, scrape up another 20 and get a Demonic Tutor instead, so...
I think the next best one, there's one with Spell Mastery. So if you have, like, a Spellslinger deck, I forget the name of it.
Dark
but
Petition?
Basically, it's what?
Is it the 5 mana one that nets you 3 mana back?
Yeah.
Dark Petition?
Dark Petition.
Yeah, Dark Petition. It's 5 mana, but if you have Spell Mastery, if you have 2 or more instants and or sorceries in your graveyard, you get 3 black mana back. So essentially, if you're using that black mana, it's a 2 mana. It's like another Demonic Tutor in your deck, and that one's kind of cheap. I think it's like $5. That one's really good, but like Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, they're so much more efficient, and they allow you to cast a spell on your turn. So I don't know. I really like the efficiency there.
I will say that I rank Demonic like way ahead of Vampiric Tutor. So if you're just going to choose one, I think that I would go with Demonic Tutor if you have to choose one of these two. Demonic Tutor puts a card in your hand. Vampiric Tutor is technically card disadvantage because you go down a card and it doesn't get back to your hand. So I think even though you got to pay 1 more mana, I think Demonic Tutor is the better of the two, but they're both true staples of the format.
Yeah. I do appreciate, like, the instant speed allows you to kind of, like, set up your next turn, but it is still disadvantage no matter how you slice it.
You can see what your opponents do and then, like, react to that by being able to cast the instant speed. So that is definitely an upside, yeah.
All right. Well...
Yeah, I'm not much a fan of tutors, but sure. Tutors,
that's
the way to go.
Yeah. Well, that could be like a good thing to bring up, I guess. Like if you think tutors are not like something you usually go for, then they wouldn't be good pickups, right? So like it really depends on your decks. Like if you want to stay tutorless, then avoid the tutor suggestions for sure.
but if you also are going to tutor, these are the best, right? Like the things that you've mentioned are the best tutors. So sure.
I mean, it's also a question if you tutor up a combo piece or a win or like a just interaction. Like, I don't know. If you're trying to assemble something specific, I guess these are the best ones. I'm not sure. Tutors are so boring. I mean, it's.
I agree fully with Phil. I hate tutors. Card. So, yeah. I
feel like I, too, have tried to cut a lot of tutors for my deck, but at the same time, I wonder if that's just our biases. Like, if I'm thinking about the average Commander player and what I would recommend, like, just a random person to buy, I think most people just play tutors, so I think they're good buys from that perspective, even though, like, I try to play, like, 1 per deck at this point, and sometimes none per deck, depending on the deck.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't even run any. But like, yeah, like that's very true. That is 100% correct. Our biases have made it so that way. But like, I personally think they're great pickups. Like, if you're gonna tutor, they're great. I don't expect you to not tutor because I don't.
I mean, plus, Crim's gonna have the opposition agent, so he's gonna get whatever you tutor for. Crim wants you to tutor. He just doesn't want to tutor.
yeah, exactly. Unless I'm trying to tutor for an opposition agent.
Yeah, if you have Crim in your play group, then it's actively bad to run these cards, actually. Because you're always going to have it.
I do genuinely try to. The only reason I run tutors is so I can tutor for opposition agent. So I can shut off tutors. Crim, why didn't you win the game? No, it's the message.
And then you scheming symmetry.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, good points to note for tutors in general. But Seth, what do you got for us next?
All right, we got another card that, similar to Cyclonic Rift, I just don't think there's really a good replacement for, and that is Teferi's Protection. Teferi's Protection, 3-mana instant. Until your next turn, your life total can't change. You have protection from everything, and all your permanents phase out, and then your Teferi's Protection gets exiled, so you can't loop it or whatever. This is just like the ultimate protection spell. If you look at other options, you got like Angel's Grace, which can protect you, but not your board. You got Flawless Maneuver that protects your board, but not you. You can kind of like have 2 cards that if you piece them together work like a Teferi's Protection, but Teferi's Protection is just me and my stuff. Nothing can possibly go wrong. If this resolves until my next turn, I am completely safe. And I think that makes it unique. Like the drop to whatever the next best. Yeah, peace out. Like I'm done. I'm out of here. Like you fight amongst yourselves for a while. So I think the fact that there's just nothing else that does really anything close to what Teferi's Protection does makes it a good buy, even though it's like $20-some. And I think it's a doubly good buy right now because they just printed it in Double Masters 2022.
Is that a pun on Double Masters?
Nah, yeah, doubly good buy, Double Masters. So it was like $40 or $50 though, not that long ago, and now it's down to like $23. So this is actually a good time to get yours at a quote unquote discount compared to where it was a little bit ago.
You'd be paying a lot less than I paid for mine. So I would say this is a timeless purchase, if you would, because I think this is exactly what Seth has mentioned. There's nothing that can quite do what this card does. It gets close, but like how efficient it is and cost and all of that, like, oh my god, this card is perfect. I fully agree this is a good pickup.
And this is another one that you run in any color combination, from mono white up to 5 colors, kind of like Cyclonic Rift. It's so powerful and so unique that it really doesn't matter what colors you are. You're never going to be sad to have this in your deck and the option of like saving yourself.
I don't think I've ever been not happy seeing this. I like know it gets in my hand, except for when someone wheels.
Yeah. I think the closest equivalent was maybe Heroic Intervention, which gives your stuff indestructible, but like that doesn't prevent you from getting hit for lethal. Right. That doesn't prevent you from like somebody exsanguinating you for lethal or something like that too.
Right.
Whereas Teferi's Protection pretty much saves you for mostly anything. Like if somebody's going to play like Fastest Oracle, then you still lose. But
yeah, someone else can
like,
win the game, I guess. Yeah.
Outside of like those, which are fairly rare in casual Magic, this is just too flexible. I don't know if there's what the next step would be. Like Heroic Intervention is just not there, right?
The problem is that there's nothing that does the latter half, right?
Yeah.
Or it's mostly just giving you protection and then like, phasing you out.
Yeah, like, it's either one or the other. Either fogs or it protects your board, but it doesn't do both.
And this does both. And it's only 3 mana. It's like super efficient too. Like it's not even some like hard to leave up spell. So what do you think about this one, Phil? Are you a Teferi's Pro fan?
Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of the card existing, but now that it does, I play it in every deck. It's like such a feel bad if you finally assemble some combo or get through lethal damage and then peace out. Okay, it's not.
I don't
play it in
that.
every white deck. Obviously, it's just
because it's not in Simic colors still. That's why
can't play it with Risen Reef.
Yeah,
it's just so good. This gives you a free. I'm not dying for this turn, and that's pretty good.
True.
Yeah. Imagine Tomer casting a Fadeaway, and then you just Teferi's Pro. Safe. No permanent sacrificed.
Could have just been
I don't think I'm casting Teferi's Protection in response to Fadeaway. I'll just pay the mana. Also, I have no creatures, so why would I care about Fadeaway?
Yeah, okay. Fadeaway's not very good against Crim, but not everybody plays Crim decks. Creatureless Drago.
Even creature decks, I don't even know if they care.
It's good, all right? I'll just keep getting you with it.
It's gotten me before.
Getting you all of it. Don't worry. It's coming. Commander Clash Season 13. It's coming. Year of the Fadeaway. All right. I mean, yeah, and the fact that it just got reprinted, like this is the time to pick up the
at rare, yeah.
$22. It might go down to like 20 or something. I would pick it up.
And then it's going to go back to 40 if it doesn't get reprinted. Yeah. Like all the commander cards, like that always happens.
I think out of all the cards we listed so far, this is the one I agree with the most. Like this is just like slam good. Unless you want to depower your deck, then leave it out, I guess.
I think this is
All
fine
right.
even in casual, so I don't understand. But I guess I have a higher threshold for what I accept.
I didn't hear about Salt about Teferi's prediction in casual, but maybe. Let us know if it's a salty card. All right, next up, Krim, what do you got for us?
Next card we've got is, well, another sweeper. It's 2 in a black. It's a sorcery speed. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. That's right. It's Toxic Deluge. This is a very, very good sweeper for the price that you're paying, 3 mana. And on top of that, the monetary price, like $17. This was way more expensive, but it has dropped. And for $17, unless you're at really, really low health here, this card in a game of Commander where you start at 40, the additional cost isn't really that noticeable, and it's something that comes down for just again, the 3 mana is so nice and it can deal with anything, unless you get Teferi's protected out of the game. But that's just, what more can you ask for out of a board wipe, right? Mana efficiency, what it does, what it gets rid of, gets around indestructible. I love everything about it.
The black fadeaway.
This is my number 1 black sweeper. Toxic Deluge is the first one I add to all of my decks, so I definitely think it's worth spending on. It's just so efficient, and it deals in indestructible stuff. Sure, it costs a little bit of life, which can sometimes be annoying, but all the upside you get out of its efficiency and getting around hexproof threats or indestructible threats or whatever, that's actually a really big upside there. So I definitely think it's worth $15 or $17 or whatever.
It goes in every deck, too. If you play black, I think you can definitely just play this, right? There's no...
This is the first sweeper I had to 5-color. In 5-color, this is the first Wrath I will add to most of my 5-color decks.
And this is why I like Demonic Tutor so much. If you need a board wipe on your turn and you don't have one in your hand and you have a Demonic Tutor, you can pay 2 Demonic Tutor, pay 3 Toxic Deluge. That's just 5 mana. So it's very doable to do when you need it. Whereas if you Diabolic Tutor and then you Toxic Deluge and 7, it's it's a little bit more dicey. But the mana efficiency is why I like this card a lot. Toxic Deluge. It's almost as good as Fadeaway.
We're not. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do
It's gonna happen.
Okay.
If Richard convinces people on Secret Rendezvous, I can convince people on Fadeaway. All right. The strictly better card. Phil,
is
the
minus effect of fade away? Wow, now you got me.
now Phil's
Tomer's got you.
Technically, Damnation is just 1 mana more, and you don't really play it on turn 3 most of the time. I'm just a devil's advocate here. It's obviously better than Damnation, but it's not irreplaceable. But on the other hand, I would also agree with all of your arguments. I was just wondering because it's not you need it to be 3 mana to cast it on turn 3. It's just cool that it's so cheap and splashable.
So I think part of it with Black Wraths is you have Toxic Deluge at 3, you have Damnation at 4, and then after that you're really up to either conditional stuff like Extinction Events or whatever, or 5 mana stuff, right? As far as how Black Wraths go. So I feel if you want one of Wraths that are less than 5 mana, which I think you do usually, you're pretty much gonna have to pay $15-$20 to get a copy of them between Toxic Deluge and Damnation, so you might as well. And then I think there's a pretty big drop. After those two, you get to the Crux of Fate level, which is kind of it's fine for budget, but I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, I'm struggling
Damnation
to think of other board wipes in black that are on that level.
When you think of black as a color, you think of destroying creatures, but then when you look through their list of board wipes, it's actually not like white, where it's so many options. It's White's not nearly as many.
I've played many years of Standard, wondering why can't I just get more Damnations?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Krim, you're the resident Grixis player. What after Damnation and Toxic Deluge, what's your go-to board wipe?
Blasphemous Act.
Or what about in black?
Do you have
you got Meatball in there, of course.
Yeah. I would go Meatball Massacre, and then I think afterwards it would probably be Crux, and then Life's Finale.
Oof.
Then you're like 6 mana, right?
Yeah. Like that's my curve. That's a crim curve right there. Right? I'm curving out, everybody.
I feel like Blood on the Snow is really good too if you can get enough snow. If you can get enough snow to make it work. Like if you're playing mono black and you have a bunch of snow basics, the reanimation upside's like pretty nice. But if you're playing 5 color or something,
kill
then
most creatures and get something back. Like it's a 2-for-1, right?
It is
it kills
nice.
everything, right?
It kills everything, or every planeswalker.
And it reanimates. Like that.
But I
want to
throw away your combos. That's why I like Life's Finale.
Grim, yeah, I could see Grim liking it. You just
right,
get them, get their things in the graveyard.
Yeah, like throw away your combos and then.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Monstrous. All right, moving on. Ooh, this is one that I like a lot, actually. Phil, what's the next card on your list that you would recommend picking up?
Yeah, so I might seem a bit hypocritical here, saying that, Cyclonic Rift isn't fun. The next card on my list is Oco Thief of Crowns. Not sure if I have to read all of it, because some people might still have PTSD from Standard.
Well, some people don't know what Standard is. So.
Yeah, it's a 3-mana Planeswalker that has way too much loyalty, pluses for food tokens, and to make everything an elk. And that's the cool part about it. You can turn your opponent's commanders into elk, and they lose all abilities, and they are still on the board, and they can't recast it. And then you can exchange control with it. Man, this card. So right now it's at $12, which is, I might just get it. I know it's a very dirty card to play, but
low.
It's very low, and the card is just, I don't know why it's. Maybe it's out of courtesy for your opponents that it's not played more, but then again, people play heuristic studies and stuff. So I think people just think it's way more expensive than it is right now. It's just $12 because it's banned literally everywhere else.
It is the best Planeswalker ever printed.
Yeah,
it's also,
but Planeswalkers
it does get worse in multiplayer, but like every single time we've seen it in multiplayer, it's like
it's
really
a 3-drop though. You can play it Gilded Goose. You can do the standard thing in Commander, and you'd still be probably ahead of the board for a couple turns just with Gilded Goose Oko. It's just so good.
I mean, if you turn to an Oko in Commander, it's real good.
Even if you like +1 Oko one time and it dies, it's still decent. Like you turned a commander into a 3/3 with no abilities, and they have to go out of their way to kill their own commander to recast it. Yeah. Like,
I mean, if you think about it,
the floor is the more I think about it. It's
the floor is like a Beast Within, and Beast Within is a staple. Like a slightly worse Beast Within. It's sorcery speed. It doesn't get enchantments or whatever. But really, like. And you get this high ceiling that it can stick around and do it multiple times. And we've seen some Commander games where it does stick around forever because it gains loyalty so fast. Where if it comes down on turn 2 or turn 3, like it gets up to like 10, 12 loyalty and just no one can deal with it.
You have 3 opponents and you just can't deal with it. Like 6 loyalty ticking up command.
Why does it +2 and enter with 4?
You have 2 opponents. You know, I don't got creatures. And the one I do, I can't commit because it becomes an elk. So.
I think the price memory thing is part of it. I would have picked up one of these for $12 to play in my Commander decks if I had realized 100%. It, but I had the standard price in my head of this being like a $70 card and thinking, it's probably like $50 now or $40, and do I really want to spend that much? But $12, that seems like just a snap buy, like such a easy addition to whatever. Yeah.
I might literally order one.
$12 is hilariously high for a card you cannot play in any format except Commander.
That is true, but if you don't play these formats, I might actually order one of these if I find a price that's like comparable to this in euros. So I'm sorry to my play group, but this guy is just absurd. And it's also, I play Lonis, and I even have the argument that his ultimate, which he can immediately do, kind of works with my clue tokens. Because
you're already playing Lonis. You don't need to have it. Your niceties are already out of the window at that point. It's like, you just lean in on that, all right?
Oh, it's so much synergy, though. Oh,
this is one of my favorite things where Phil draws the line. He's like, Ugin's just not fun. Check this out.
I'll steal all your permanents, but I don't want to force of will. That's too far.
Ugin.
Man's got to have a code.
Yeah, this card is sick. I guess sometimes I won't run it just because if I'm like really hard on a theme, maybe I'll run an Oko. But honestly, no, because then you can do the Oko puns.
Yeah.
You can just pull out the Oko puns to really rub it in their faces.
And I think you can justify it in a removable slot. Like, think of it like a Beast Within. Like, even if like Beast Within's probably not on theme of what you're doing, but you got to have some removal. Like, think of Oko that way, and you can put it in pretty much any deck, I think.
Yeah, wrecks any artifact or creature.
I think he's good enough to run in just a Simic deck, right? Like any of the Simic things, because exactly those reasons that you just mentioned. It could be removable.
Yeah.
So for $12, I think this card is dirt cheap for what it does. But also, Planeswalkers, though, are kind of... Unless you're a Planeswalker deck, I find that I'm often cutting a Planeswalker in a normal deck. So that's the biggest thing.
I think that's why it doesn't see that much play.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's still a Planeswalker in a multicolor format. And for $12, that it's not much for what the card is, but for like $4 more, I can get a Seagate Restoration, right? Or something. I don't know. So, but like, the thing here is, it's just this card, there is no effect like that is as good as this, except for like there's Beast Withins and yada yada yada, but like this is more than a Beast Within, right? So the problem is it is just a Planeswalker. So
I guess a beefy one.
It doesn't feel like a commander card. I guess that's it. It feels like a super constructed staple.
Right.
But really not. You wouldn't think of commander when you see
1v1, this is a haymaker. 4-player, like, I mean, remember, Jace the Mind Sculptor is a haymaker, in 1v1, but it's like hilariously bad in like commander, right? So
the sheer power play of dropping this like turn 2, Like,
I mean, yeah, sure, but
so good.
Turn 2 3 fairy, turn 2 this, that, like, obviously those are all great, but
even like a turn 3 Oko, where you're really slow on it in green.
I love Planeswalkers. But I personally think that Planeswalkers are always the 101st card. Unless you're a Super Friends deck.
Yeah.
Except for Vivian, Monsters Advocate. She gotta get us a pass.
I'm still running it every
I still think that card is... Wait, Vivian, not the 3-mana one that gives your essentially creatures flash?
No, the one that lets you play from the top of your library and gets creatures. It's just too much value. If you're on tap with
I like that card. The flash one we can talk about. We can talk about the flash one. And it's like 25 cents for the flash one.
Yeah. No, the other one is... love it. It's not too good, but untapping with her... I mean, I'm getting off track here.
Other card. All right, we'll move on the list. I'm going to move to something that I find that is probably controversial for me to say, and that's Fetchlands. Generally, I say like Fetchlands aren't a requirement or anything. You can get by with like other lands just fine, and I would say they are overrated. Like everybody thinks like a 5-color mana base is unplayable unless you have like all the 10 fetches and all 10 original duels and all 10 shocklands, blah, 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 blah. But at the general end of things, I think Fetchlands, especially the ones that got reprinted recently, the ones that are like, I think, not allied, but the other one, enemy ones, they're like in the $25 range. So they're kind of expensive still for a single land slot. But at the end of the day, they're just good investments. Like having a playset of Fetchlands and putting them in your deck is going to get better. And even if you take apart that deck, you're going to find a new home for the fetch land all the time. That's why I think I want to suggest them here. Because not only do they provide such amazing fixing when you have dual lands with them, like the shocklands and everything. You can like crack a Misty Rainforest and get any forest duel, any island duel. So the flexibility there is fantastic, especially for like 3-color, 4-color, 5-color decks. But also, they do put themselves in the graveyard, so any graveyard synergies become so much better with them too, like a Sun Titan, for example, a Crucible Worlds, a Remnant Excavator, those type of things just get so much better as well. So the synergy potential of them is really, really high, and just the fact that their mana fixing is so darn good for multicolor decks makes them, I think, worth it. Like I wouldn't rush out to buy them, but like, if you're looking for something to upgrade and you're not really dead set on keeping a specific deck in mind, like you don't know what you're going to be playing in the next month or so, like these are just good to pick up. Like if you can ever find them kind of cheap, I would pick them up because they're just always going to be useful to you no matter what.
This is such a tricky one because I feel like on one hand, building any specific deck, I don't think this would be on my list of like expensive cards to get for that deck. I think I'd rather get something that works specifically with the theme of my deck. On the other hand, from the perspective of just like, I want to have a commander collection, I want to be able to build multiple decks, these are probably very close to like at the very top of my list, I think, as far as just like building that collection to be able to make a bunch of decks. The only other thing I'd add about these cards is Fetchlands, they do come with a little bit of an additional investment requirement because they're only as good as what you're fetching up. So if you're playing Fetchlands and getting basic lands, Fetchlands are like actively bad. You might as well not be playing the Fetchlands in that scenario or whatever. So you got to actually have Fetchlands and then also invest in like shock lands or at least some sort of hopefully occasionally untapped dual land that you'll be able to fetch up with them to really make them worth it. So there is triomes are also like wonderful. I guess you can get there's some lesser cycles. I guess you can
snowlands. I play them.
That's
yeah,
is
the
it
BFC
worth it?
Battlelands. I love them.
I feel like if I'm gonna the Battlelands I guess are okay. I was thinking this tap Snowlands.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd invest in
There's also the Cat
fetches to get those.
Yeah, Cyclolands.
I feel like they got to come into play untapped a little bit, but just keep that in mind. Like, if you're going to invest in fetches, you got to have something good to fetch up to. So think of it as kind of a package, fetches and what you're going to be getting with them. But they are some of the most powerful mana fixing we have. So
I might be a little, but
No, good.
Oh, okay. I might be a little biased on them because I noted Fetchlands on our list as well, but I play the landfall deck, so yeah, I'd be very interested in this effect. The only thing that kinda sucks about them is you have to shuffle your library with that's a bit tedious in Commander, but it's almost like a utility land. If you like, I play Tireless Tracker in every deck I can, and it gets 2 clues like landfall triggers, and then there's what Thomas said, like a permanent in the graveyard. It's they do so much and fit in every deck. Like, they're not restricted by any color identity. It's just a good thing to have. I don't know. It's just good if you have them. And if you can pick them up cheaply, you're probably going to use them.
I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I took out my fetch lands from my 5-color deck just because I don't like shuffling. That was literally it. So if you have baby hands, then probably avoid them.
Has the deck played any differently now that you've played it with and without fetches? Do you notice like, oh, my mana's a lot worse, I'm missing a color? So it is actually noticeable. I
do notice it does stump. I mean, it works fine. It functions fine, but I do notice that I get awkward hands more often.
I mean, you just need one fetch and triumphs in your deck, and you can probably cast your entire hand if you just play that one fetch and fetch correctly.
Get the right triumph.
So I have 2 fetch lands and I have like 5 triumphs, and that's what I've left it to. I used to have all 10 fetches, and I cut them out.
People like play like pretty much as many fetches as they can, like oftentimes in decks, right? Like as long as like even shares half like one of the colors, right?
Yeah.
And I personally don't think you need to necessarily do that. Like, let's just say, for example, playing a Grixis deck, I will only have Scalding Tarn, Mire, and Polluted Delta, right? Like, I don't go above and beyond and also throw in, like, Woodland, all of that, yada, yada, yada. So, I do think they are a good investment. Just know that if you like blue, I'm sorry, you are going to have to pay more. Blue fetches are always more expensive than any of the non-blue ones.
Yeah.
And I think as Tomer mentioned, this is another one like Teferi's Protection where it's a good time. Like, we still have Modern Horizons 2 on shelves. They were like $70, some of these, a year ago before Modern Horizons 2 came out. They're down to $25. The cheap ones, the white ones, are down to like $15 for like a Marsh Flats or an Arid Mason now. So especially for the ones that got reprinted, I think this is another case where like it's the right time to snag your copies, because a year or two from now, once there's no more Modern Horizons boxes for a cheap price, usually those cards start ticking back up again. So it might be another one of those cases where this is a good window to get them on the cheap.
Yeah, I hate mentioning it right now. I hate it because I've built like 5-color decks without Fetchlands. I've built like $5 mana base or $15 5-color mana bases before, and they worked fine. Like the Omnath, the 4-color Omnath deck I made and I played on Commander Clash, which was over a little bit too strong. It had no fetches or anything in them. So
really?
4-color Omnath. Yeah, who would have thought that it still functions kind of well? even without the best cards in the deck. Who knew?
Card must
but
be
yeah,
good.
so like you could definitely like build I hate it when people say like, oh, I want to build like a new player asks like, oh, I want to play a 5-color deck. How the mana base is, and like if you post it on Reddit every single time, all the upvoted comments are going to be like, you need fetches, you need shocks, and you really don't. Like you absolutely do not need those.
You do need shocks. I think you do need shocks.
I don't think you do. I know you don't because I've done it so many times before with budget brews. So like I built 5-color Ramos Lucky Charms, and that's like the most color intensive thing you need, and I did it fine with like a $10 budget. Like it's easy for the mana base. Yeah.
I think they're better than shocks though. Like I literally play Toba's Omnath deck, but I switched out some lands for the snow lands. I'm playing super budget, by the way. I don't own an Oco or a Seagate Restoration, but I switched out the some lands for the dual snow lands, and I think these in combination with fetches are better than, I guess, just having shock lands, because fetches are just so much more versatile. If you have just one of every color to fetch up with them, it's just so good. I have one fetch now. I was lucky enough to open
before
one.
shocks.
Yeah, I think so too. I think fetches are like on their whole other level. It's just the best mana fixing out there, except for, I guess, Command Tower. But yeah.
And then you get the extra synergies of like landfall and stuff too. No other land cycle is offering like 2 land drops with my Lotus Cobra, my Omnath, or whatever. So they actually serve like more of a gameplay purpose than most lands do.
Yeah, but usually you go like fetches and then shocks and then
fetches, shocks, triomes. That's the hierarchy I think for Commander at this point, and then everything
and then
else.
Abu duels.
Well, yeah, I mean, assuming you didn't win the lotto in the past month or something, yeah.
All right, we're rounding the last 4 cards on our list here. Seth, what do you got for us?
I got a card that probably should just be banned, but it's not banned, and there's nothing else that does what this card does, so you should probably buy it, even though it's really expensive, and that's Dockside Extortionist. I'm sure if you play Commander, you probably know what it does, because it's been a huge topic of conversation, but it's a 2-drop that when it ETBs, you get treasures equal to the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. Currently $60, which is honestly a little bit disappointing. It just got reprinted in Double Masters, and it was like $73 before it got reprinted. So I was hoping this was going to drop down to like $40 or something, but it only dropped like $10 from its peak, and it's already been ticking back up in the past few days. But the card's insane. Like, it is probably just the best red card in Commander. The amount of mana it makes consistently is way over the top for its mana cost. It accidentally fuels combos that win games if you blink it or get it back with Eternal Witness after sacrificing it. It's just an absolutely over-the-top, absurdly powerful Magic card, and it's another one of those cards where there's literally no replacement. There's nothing else in red. Red is big about temporary mana. What makes Dockside so much different is, even though it can work like a ritual, where you play this 2-drop and you get a bunch of treasures that make a bunch of mana that you can spend right away, the treasures store up. It's like a ritual that's giving you mana that you can use in future turns if you want to, and you get artifact synergies out of them and all these other aspects. So Dockside's just absolutely busted, and even though it might be the most expensive card we've talked about so far, if you're someone who wants to play red decks, or it's another card that you can put in all the way up to 5-color, any color combination,
especially in 5-color, I think it's worth it.
If I was going to spend $60 on a card, the only risk I would say would be it getting banned. That would be the only thing that would give me some amount of worry. Is this is a card that, if you talk to Commander players, I think this is maybe the most talked about card as far as, could they possibly ban this? Should they possibly ban it? I don't think they're going to ban it, but if they did ever ban it, then it's going to drop down towards $0 because it's not legal in any other format. Like, there's no place to play it if it got banned in Commander.
I think this card is getting grandfathered in to the format forever. I don't think it's ever.
Probably.
Like, I hate saying it because I think the card should be banned. And you know what? I hope this gets clipped and I'm proven wrong. No, Crimsy, they did ban it. I'd be very happy about that. But I just don't see that happening. And like, it's 2 mana. This card is 2 mana. It fits in the CMC where every recursion spell, like an Unearth, can bring this back. Like, you know what like
ridiculous.
it is absurdly costed in every way possible. Mana value, monetary, like it's $60 and it was reprinted last week. So,
in the most expensive set of all time at Mythic, which makes no sense despite being predatory to the consumer.
Oh, you know why they did it.
I know. It's supposed to be a draft set.
All right.
This is the
it doesn't do anything in draft. Why is it a
of
Mythic?
Modern Masters. Remember
why
that?
it's Mythic.
Like when Tarmogoyf came out in Modern Masters 1, they printed it at Mythic, and that doubled its price. So now it's like $30, whatever. So it's gonna take a lot more reprints.
Wow.
No,
it's gonna
make secret layers out of it. That's the next step. Secret layer dockside. One dockside, 3 treasure tokens, $100, please.
Oh,
how many
will do
reprints
that.
would it take for this to shrink to drop in price though? Because I feel like this is a card that's just gonna be forever a red card, right? Like it'll always be the first red card.
I think it would
no.
get banned if they printed too much.
No, I think no, because I think that this is the reason why I'm hesitant on saying that this is a card worth picking up, is because I think a lot of casual groups, or at least the ones that I've experienced, know that Dockside's too strong. And so people consciously leave it out, much like you leave out Mana Crypt from your decks. For lower power decks, I feel like Dockside usually gets left out because people just kind of know that it is too strong. And that's kind of why I hesitate to suggest it, because if you are looking for lower power or mid power games, I feel like Dockside is just kind of like a taboo, to run it, and you might get some looks. Whereas a lot of the other cards we listed on the list, like even Cyclonic Rift, like Cyclonic Rift is high on the salt scale for a lot of people, but like even that I don't think is not on the same level as Dockside. Dockside is known to be just like a silly busted card.
What's Dockside 2 like Jessica's Will?
Well, Jessica's Will is actually way more tame than Dockside.
Oh, I agree. It's significantly more tame, but like that's what I mean. The drop off after there is nothing like Dockside. So and like I agree with Tomer. It's hard recommending the card because A, it is $60 and it just got reprinted. And 2, and B, it's just like I've never seen this played fairly. Actually, that's a lie. I've seen it played fairly once with Corey Burkhardt, who just played it on turn 2.
I mean, it's worth $60. I think it's worth $60 from like a power standpoint and its splashable standpoint and everything standpoint. But my hesitance is just like people know that it is but like one of the best cards you can run, and so if you aren't at a high power table, it might not be something that you'll be wanting to run all the time.
If you take out the rule zero discussion, all that stuff, I guess to like keep it within the realms of the podcast, right? Like it's like, is it worth it? Just simple as that. Like, is it worth it?
It is.
Yeah, I think it's very worth it.
And this is the time again. Even though the price didn't drop that much, it did just get reprinted. We're not going to be getting more of them, presumably, for a little while. So even though it's still super expensive, this is probably as cheap as it's going to get. We've even seen this one like ticking back up in the last few days from when it got reprinted. So I would say get it now if you're going to get it. But Tomer is right that if your playgroup doesn't like it and you're going to buy it and like play 2 games and then stop playing it because your playgroup is sick of it, then it's not worth it from that perspective.
Yeah. Secret Lair Dockside coming in a couple months. I'm calling it now.
I mean, they
One
did it with
Dockside,
Popcorn
3
and
treasures,
Crossroads.
$100. That's my call shot.
I will also say statistically, I looked up in the Wayback Machine some old EDH rec stats in like a year ago. It was played in 13% of decks, and currently it's at 20% of decks. So we haven't really seen signs in the data that less people are playing it yet. But that doesn't mean certain playgroups are not kind of rules airing it out or whatever. So we'll see if that changes in another year. Maybe that number will start to drop as people just get sick of it and its saltiness.
Thankfully, I guess I have not experienced it that much in the wild. Unless it's high power or CDH. CDH is like the card, right? So it might be the strongest card in CDH.
That's CEDH. I don't mind it in CEDH because you're actually trying to optimize your deck. So for this, it's obviously very good. Yeah, that's fine. it's just super boring. I mean, Urza is another card that is super strong, but at least it does a lot of unique things. Doxa just says, here's infinite mana, go infinite with me somehow. You do it. Like anything. It's just too easy.
And it feels
a ritual. Feels like a cheat code.
And it's like one of the best rituals. But there's another ritual on this list that is it doubles it moonlights as counter magic, and Krim, you mentioned it.
It's my favorite. It's the counter spell, right? It's the counter spell. It's mana drain, and it's my favorite counter spell in all of Magic the Gathering. It's blue, and let me get the actual straight up text for it. Counter target spell at the beginning of your next main phase. Add an amount of colorless mana equal to the spell's mana value. Simple as that, right? And this is like this is the most blue ritual you could have. You counterspell. I know there's High Tide. But the thing here is you could just like you could counterspell and then immediately like the following turn on your main phase, play some massive artifact or like spam the board with a bunch of like mana rocks or something. Like the additional mana that you get from mana drain is so helpful that it is the best counterspell that you could have. I know that Force of Will is free. Like, it can be free, which is nice, but it doesn't help you do a follow-up, which is what I love about Mana Drain, right? Like Mana Drain can immediately give me that burst of mana to play a 6-mana commander or something afterwards, or cheat something into play after taking out your best play. So, I absolutely love this card, and it's like $46. And I think you could actually get it for even cheaper. I think that's just like on average what it's going for right now. So for $46, it's not just a counterspell. That's the thing. If you're thinking of it as a counterspell, that is not all it is. It is a burst in ramp, and I love that for blue.
Is it better than Fierce, though?
Yeah, I have such mixed feelings.
And Force?
Look, I think it's better than Fierce and Force because the effect here is like, sure, I can force you, I can Fierce Guardianship you, but that's not going to help pay for my command attacks because like now I've countered your spell, right? So I want to now take advantage of that, right? By taking advantage of that, Force of Will doesn't help me with that. It doesn't give me that burst of mana to then play a Planeswalker and then still hold up mana to use my other counter spells, right? So I do like what Mana Drain does.
To use my other counter spells.
Right.
But, okay, this is the best. This is probably the best for Draw Go, which is Krim, what Krim plays every game. So I get that.
If you're playing a counterspell deck, if you're playing counterspells in your deck, you're going to want this. Why wouldn't you? Because
oh, you definitely do.
If you're playing a counterspell deck, yes.
This is
any deck with counterspells. I like in it.
Fair.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. This is definitely my top 3, but I would put it third.
It's the first non-free counterspell I add to decks.
Yes.
Like if I'm gonna add counters to decks, usually it's Force of Will number 1, and then maybe it's Mana Drain number 2. I don't like the Fierce Guardianship that much, and Force Negation is somewhere in the top 3, but yeah, so it's either my number 1 or it's probably my number 2 counter spell, and I do like it. The mana is a really huge deal, and it does make you unique. I mean, it does. There's not another counter spell that is cheap and is also going to potentially ramp you, 5 mana, 6 mana, 8 mana, 10 mana, depending on what you hit. So I definitely think it's worth it. If you want to play decks if you want to play counterspell decks, essentially, like if you want to play the decks that want counterspells, this is a really great one to have in your deck, and I would pay the money for it to have that effect.
Right, because like the tempo is also great, right? Like like tempo decks, it's great because I'm able to counter you, maybe play my commander, like my rogues deck. I'm able to play Anawan for dirt cheap, and then hold up counterspell behind that. In my control deck, I'm allowed to play Draw Go. Right, so that's even better. Now I can play a win con. See, so then people don't get mad that you counter their spells. Look, I have a win con on board. You see?
I love how every sentence ends with "so then I can leave up another." Another counter.
Yeah,
I get the mana, I get to do stuff, and then leave up another counter.
I mean, I'm keeping all my mana up anyway.
I do not want to do that. Or hold removal. You get opposition agent mana still. Now you get to do all the. If you function on an instant speed axis, this card is exactly what you want. It allows you to counter a threat, play a threat yourself, and hold up defenses and have shields up. Mm-hmm. Which is like everything a blue mage wants to do.
On the other end, counterspell is like $1. And it does the same thing except you don't get the mana.
Which is all the difference though. The mana is what changes it here. If it were just like counterspell, I would play Arcane Denial, right? Like that's like $1. Also $1 and probably better than counterspell. But I think that the mana here is precisely why you play it. It is exactly why it is the first counterspell I put. Force is great, but the card disadvantage thing is real in a multiplayer game. It is real. Force is like an emergency red button that I can use I only use to like stop a game like losing combo or something like that, right? I love Mana Drain as a way to counterspell but be proactive, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean with, like, you really force something if you lose the game otherwise. But Mana Drain doesn't have this feel-bad effect that you have when you play with multiple people. So you can just, like, if you can counter something that's not essential to winning the game or something. You just get something more from it. So that's actually a good point. Yeah, it's
right?
kind
like,
of a proactive, yeah.
It sounds weird because you think proactive and counterspells, like those are like not those are oxymorons, but it is exactly for that reason.
That's a good point. Yeah, I love that we just play Mana Drain. It's like obviously super busted, but I'm fine with it, and I'm fine with my opponents playing with it, and I'm just happy that we can play this extremely. It's just so much strictly better counterspell, but I guess.
That's where our fine with play group is at, because we're like on the higher end of mid, I would say, usually. Like, we're still definitely mid power. We're not high power, but we're on the higher end of it, and like Mana Drain's just fine in our group. Like, we also play Fierce and stuff. I still think Fierce in Force is better just because I tremendously value free spells. But this is my third, and I definitely would pay money. I would pay that amount to pick it up because it is that much better than Counterspell or any of the mana requirement ones, because it does ramp. Like, you could just, like, you get 5 extra mana and you get to cast a spell or counter a spell at the same time. Like, it just, there's no equivalent. There's like 2 bad ones. There's one that clashes from Lorwyn.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and Plasm Capture, which is like 4 mana Simic spell, and they're just not even in the same ballpark.
So much worse. I mean,
those are green.
Yeah,
those are the testament to how broken the original is. Like, when Wizards tried to remake it, they put it in 2 colors and doubled the mana. Like, that's such a huge increase.
There's one if you win a clash, but that's still 4 mana. And
it's also a spell swindle or something, the one that creates treasures.
And that's like 6.
That's 5, man.
5, I think. 5, yeah.
So you're not casually leaving up 5.
Yeah. That's draw go only, I think.
Yeah.
All right, last 2 cards on the list. Phil, what's the second last one here?
Yeah, not really what you would expect, considering that I hate Rhystic Studies, but an okay card is Esper Sentinel. It's a 1 mana. Wait, let me just read the exact text. 1 white mana, 1/1 artifact creature, human soldier. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. So, if you want to cast a spell that's not a Soul Ring on turn 1, Esper Sentinel is a pretty good one. Like, we've seen games where this draws like 8 cards or something. But we also seen the game where it didn't draw any card, but I kind of taxed the entire table with it, and it was just a Thalia.
Richard let you draw cards.
Oh yeah, at some point I got to draw some cards. It's just so much value for 1 mana.
You preyed on the mana screwed player, dude.
I didn't. Could have just let me draw cards.
Absolutely not. On principle, no.
On principle, no.
I have morals, okay?
So the card is kind of pushing the limits of what the value on a 1-drop can be, and I guess that's worth $22. And these are all pretty expensive, but that's Magic. But if you want to have as much value on a 1-drop as possible, I think Esper Sentinel is the way to go. It's just too much. And it's an artifact. That's actually crazy that it's an artifact, and it's a human, which is slightly relevant. I guess more so for Krim here as a human player, but Artifact, it's wild. So much value, so much text on a 1-drop.
Get it with Urza Saga.
And
you can't
get it with Urza Saga, unfortunately. It's got to be the specific colorlessness, but I will say I love that it plays so well with White's themes, though. That's probably the biggest upside, is like white is the color of putting auras on things, putting equipment on things. That's like what white does best. And Esper Sentinel embraces that so perfectly. It's a cheap creature to flip your dowsing dagger or whatever early in the game, and then the bigger you grow it, the less possible it is for your opponents to pay for it, and then you really are drawing a ton of cards throughout the game. So yeah, Esper Sentinel, easy buy. And another card that I want to play in literally any 5-color deck, but creature decks, things that work with the theme, I would slot this into non-white decks as well. Like it's that strong that you can play it in multicolor decks easily.
I put in like blue decks and I've loved it there. Like it's just so much value for a 1-drop.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does work so well with whites like staples. Like Sun Titan gets it back, Ranger of Eos fetches it up,
Finds it.
Tutor fetches it, so
put equipment on it, put auras on it. Put
equipment on it.
That card's in,
it works with its
absurd.
major themes.
Yep.
Yeah, this is just a good card. A little bit annoying to always ask to pay, but you only ask it 1 time per turn maximum, which is nice. I like that.
That does help. And it's easier to play around than something like Rhystic Study. I like that it doesn't trigger every spell. That would be a little bit annoying.
And I think like especially if you're mono white, like you need to have certain like staple cards to kind of help the deck function, and Esper Sentinel is one of the best in doing that. So I think that's good. Kerm, you look like you were about to say something.
No, I fully agree. I love this card. I don't think it's like OP or anything. I think it's just a good card. It's like I don't put it in every deck. Actually, I just put it in like my Humans deck and like maybe an Artifact deck. I don't necessarily find it that good to where I'd put it in every deck.
Yeah, that's fair. It's definitely many rungs lower than Rhystic Study, at least from our statistics on it. Like, it seems like a balanced card, at least in our group. Like not crazy, but like good.
Even with
you don't
Seth
feel too
at the
bad
table.
Even with Seth at the table. No, Seth was paying for it. Like, me and Seth have an agreement on that.
I paid for it before. It happened once. There's video proof. There's video proof.
It was by accident.
Editor, show the one time I paid for it.
Not there. Seth starts getting responsible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, speaking of paying for it, the last card on the list, and in my pick, is begrudgingly Smothering Tithe. Smothering Tithe, 4 mana, white enchantment. That says whenever an opponent draws a card, they either pay 2 mana or you make a treasure token. So the more cards your opponents are drawing, the more treasures you're going to be making. 2 mana is far more mana than 1 in terms of paying taxes. So odds are people will not pay for Smothering Tithe. Like sometimes they do if they're swimming in mana and stuff. But like if they're drawing extra cards, you're making like the minimum usually for a Smothering Tithe around a circle. It's making 3 mana each turn, which is like a Thran Dynamo at that point. But more likely it's going to be making 6, 8, even more mana per turn cycle. So this, I would say, is the strongest ramp card in white, which I already consider one of the best ramp cards ramp colors in the format. I think it goes green, then either white or black. I think white is second best. But this is the best one, and it's so good that I will actually run it in green decks. And that is one of the only cards I will say in terms of ramp cards I would run in actually a white-green deck. It's that powerful. It matches the level of like the best green stuff, I think. And that's high praise for a non-green color. So yeah, I personally have cut it for most of my decks because it's a little bit too strong for most of the decks that I'm running. But I can't deny that it is very good, and at certain power levels, and especially many play groups, it is just totally fine to run. So if you are at a play group that it's totally at a good level, this is something I would snap pick. It would probably be the first white card. Well, actually, maybe Teferi's Protection would be the first one, but this one is like definitely up there in terms of like you can slot into any deck and it will just get better.
It's so good. It's so good. And I think that it's just so far ahead of the other white ramp spells. White definitely has a lot of ramp, but I think that this really stands alone as the best of the bunch. It's like a slow Dockside Extortionist. Like, if you can't combo with it like Dockside and just go off and win the game, but the amount of mana it produces over the course of the game once you get this on the battlefield, it's really, really immense. So, yeah, I think this is one of the most important white cards to have. I think it's good in other colors too, but in mono white in specific, I think you kind of really need Smothering Tithe to keep up a lot of the time. Assuming your playgroup is playing at a relatively high power, it's just like, it's so important for white decks to be able to have that mana.
I mean, like, I think this is just I recommend this because it feels like it scales with the playgroup. I don't care how many, like, it doesn't matter what power level the deck is, right? I think it's just good in any white deck. If you're a low power deck, all you're doing is ramping into more low powered cards. If you're playing a high power deck, you're ramping into higher things. So I have a very high tolerance, and I think that's the main thing. So I don't care what you're doing with this card at whatever power level. I think
the
card
a low power deck, then you just get to cast all your spells forever, way ahead of everybody else.
Spells, right? Like,
yeah, but if everybody else is bringing low power decks, and the fact that your low power deck is casting everything, and your opponents are casting one thing per turn.
I mean, let's be honest. It wouldn't resolve against Crim anyway, so this is all hypothetical.
Hopefully.
I mean, oftentimes I just let this stay, right? Because it's fine.
This is a problem.
Like you can deal with this, right? Like, I'm not gonna deal with this. But
Richard mentality.
I do think that this card is good. It's very good. I strongly recommend it. It is it's probably the number 2 white card for me, or the number 3, but definitely top 3. I just don't see why you wouldn't get it. And after a reprint where you can get it for like $30 right now, and probably on the cheaper end if you go through other means.
It just got reprinted in Double Master.
Right.
Yep.
This card is just dirt cheap. No reason not to have it.
Dirt cheap. It's still $30.
Sorry, for what it was, I consider it dirt cheap. Like, it was like $45, $50, right? And like, you can get it now for like $22. So,
I think it's actually, is it 22 now? I feel like it's already climbed back up in price a little bit. Okay, so it's like 30. I mean, that is a nice discount though.
The window's gone. It's not cheap anymore.
Get it soon, because prices are already going back up.
I guarantee you, by the time this video goes up, like, it'll already be past $30 then.
Yeah. It was in a brawl deck. I got the brawl deck. I think is how I have my Smothering Tithes. Getting those for like $20 or whatever.
Good. I'm picking up 10, and I picked up 10 for $4 each. So I spent $40. I was like, wow, this is great. I'm set for the rest.
I was
about to retire,
and I opened a ton of these in the booster boxes, and I was super upset. I'm like, well, this card is trash.
It's trash.
Because it was in 60 card formats. What am I going to do with this?
True.
I played this
Commander back then.
I played this one time, and it was with the emergency powers deck with Dovin Bond.
Yeah.
So that's
it. It wasn't in Grixis colors. So.
But like, other than that, like, this card was trash in 1v1. So like, I would never play it. And now I'm very happy that I opened a ton of them. So
yeah. All right, not much to discuss there, I guess.
Yeah, it's just powerful, but bit obnoxious to ask if you pay the 2, which nobody will.
I think it's the socializing part, having to actually ask your opponents things. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's a little bit of a deep dive there, okay? But I'm thinking it's the socialization part that Magic players don't want to do.
That's an annoying socialization part. I consider this like a positive social interaction when you ask somebody to pay the 2
I don't
want to
sell you this car insurance, but I gotta, okay?
Yeah, the social interactions I really want. Like, have you heard about your extended car warranty?
I'm here to call you about your extended car warranty.
And then when I hang up on you, Chris, like, nobody wants to socialize.
Yeah, why does no one want to talk and socialize and have a good time, you know?
Yeah, I hate recommending this, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have to say to this whole list. It's not like we say, hey, you're just starting out Commander, pick up these cards and your playgroup's gonna love it. Obviously, we try to get the best bang for our buck with this. Like, I won't suggest you get Smothering Tide as your first thing to upgrade a deck. It's just, if you want good power for money, they're all pretty expensive, and I'm not gonna stop you from just taking a piece of paper and writing Mana Drain on it. I will look at you funny if you counter my foil promo or whatever with a piece of paper that says Mana Drain, but I'm still gonna laugh about it. So
you recently scribbled it too. You're like, hold on one
funny.
second. I saw the stack. Let me pull out my piece of paper.
It's even funnier if you do that. So I'm here for that.
God.
Also, as we've all learned in Magic, anything that's good or whatnot, you know, you shouldn't worry about that. Just get the biggest bang for your buck, because anything good will always rub somebody the wrong way. It'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. Proxying is free. Play what you want. These are just cards that we say, like, if you want to pay money on cards, these are probably good choices to pick up first as a priority. That was the entire intent of the podcast. But yeah.
Play what you want, except for Fade Away. Don't play Fade Away.
No! That was the real point.
That is a bad investment. Do not play Toxic Deluge.
It's got to be free. I think that local game stores just literally throw them out to everyone who walks in. Yeah.
Check the bulk bins at your LGS. You might find it.
All right. That's it, everybody. We've got, 12? I think that was 12. Yeah. 12 options for you all to think about in terms of things to pick up. Let us know what you would say are good cards that you over $10 that you think are worth picking up, worth their value in terms of, like, if you do want to spend money on Magic cards, what you would go for. We're aiming for, like, casual, obviously. But, competitive EDH might have entirely different criteria. A lot of these cards probably wouldn't make the list there. But that's like what we're aiming towards anyway. Hope you enjoyed, everybody. Buy our playmats, limited edition, limited quantity, and all that stuff. Not limited quantity, limited time frame to purchase it. Unlimited quantity, just up to whatever we get ordered, we print to order. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm tired. I need a coffee, so we're gonna end it here.
Wait.
Yeah, subscribe.
Hey, somebody has to like the video though, because I'm not watching this podcast. So one person that usually doesn't like the video has to like it, because I'm
one new viewer
to make up for it. Yeah.
Oh, we gotta make a new viewer. Show this to somebody.
Show it to someone. Like and subscribe, and
that could use this video,
right?
Hey, you have a kid, and the kid watches anything. Put on the Commander Clash podcast for them. Why not? We don't swear, so that's good, I guess. Right? We talk about meat hook massacres, but I mean, that's fine.
I said meatball, so that's even family friendly.
Meatball massacres.
Right?
Which is when you're really hungry and you need a lot of meatballs.
You're slaying people's hunger.
Massacre those meatballs.
Yeah. Child-friendly podcast right here. Wholesome. Anyway, that's it, everybody. Hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Until next time, friends. See ya.